Good morning to all of the officials who are here with us, and welcome to the meeting of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. And let me especially welcome officials from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, of course the Ministry of Works and Transport, as well as the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, VMCOTT. My name is Wade Mark, and I'm the chairman of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. Now, our committee, which is the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, has a mandate to consider and report to the House of Representatives on the following: the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of all enterprises that are owned or controlled by or on behalf of the state. The Auditor General's report on any such accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements, and whether policy is carried out efficiently, effectively, and economically, and whether expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it. Now, the purpose of our meeting this morning is to conduct the following: an examination of the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial years 2015 and 2016, and follow up on the implementation of recommendations in the committee's second report, 12th Parliament. The committee is also desirous of hearing the challenges being faced by the key stakeholders at VMCOTT in an attempt to determine some of the possible solutions to these challenges. And of course, the role of our committee is to help VMCOTT improve its delivery of services in an efficient, effective, and economic manner. Now, may I advise that the meeting that we are conducting is being held in public and is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Viewers and listeners can send their comments related to today's topic via email, that is parl101@ttparliament.org, Facebook/ttparliament, Twitter or X @ttparliament. So that is for the public. Now, I would like to call on the members of our committee to introduce themselves, starting from my immediate right. So I call on my colleague to just introduce yourself.
Hazel Thompson-Ahi, member of the committee.
Can I ask my other colleagues?
Good morning, everyone. Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, member. Good morning, everyone. Laura Lizama Leasing, member, welcome.
And we have Mr. Scotland, who will join us in a short while. May I ask members, or officials, I should say, to introduce themselves, starting with the Ministry of Finance.
Good morning. I am Sharon Mohammed, Director, Agri-Based Manufacturing Services Sector from the Investments Division.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Pascal, Acting Business Analyst, Investments Division, Ministry of Finance.
Thank you. And I now ask my colleagues from the Ministry of Works and Transport to introduce themselves.
Hi, good morning. Dahanmati Ramdat, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport.
Good morning. Derek Leger, Project Analyst, Ministry of Works and Transport.
Those are the two persons, right? From the ministry. Okay. I'll now call on the officials representing the Vehicle Management Company of TNT to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair and esteemed members of the board. I am Lieutenant Colonel retired Neil Bennett, Chairman of the Board of Directors at VMCOTT.
Thank you. Yes?
Good morning, all. My name is Natasha Prince. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of VMCOTT.
Thank you. Others?
Good morning, all. Chair, my name is Mr. Arnaldo Russell. I am the Human Resource Manager at VMCOTT. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Special good morning to the Chair. My name is Larry Cummings, Internal Auditor at VMCOTT.
Thank you. Others?
Morning, everyone. I am Mark Leeson, Director at VMCOTT.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Oleandre, Finance Manager at VMCOTT.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, or that's it? Okay. All right, well, let me just ask the following officials to make a brief intervention by, through an opening statement for no more than a minute each, no more than 2 minutes, I should say. So I'll call on the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and Works and Transport to be followed by the... You are the... what's your post? Director. We'll call on the Director thereafter, and then we will then ask either the Chairman or the CEO from VMCOTT to make a brief opening statement. So may I ask the Deputy Permanent Secretary to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Members of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, my colleagues from Ministry of Finance, members of the media, and the viewing public. The Ministry of Works and Transport will make every effort this morning to respond accurately and provide clarification to the best of our ability to the inquiry this morning of this committee on the examination of the audited accounts, balance sheet, and other financial statements of the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial years 2015 and 2016, and the follow-up on the implementation of the recommendations outlined by this committee in its second report. Thank you, Chair and members.
Thank you. Can I ask the Director to say a few words at this time?
Yes, good morning once again. The Investments Division of the Ministry of Finance is responsible for the executing the investment policy as prescribed by Cabinet. Accordingly, the mandate of the division includes oversight, monitoring, and where necessary, the rationalization of government equity holdings in commercial enterprises. The Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited is one such enterprise. Additionally, the division acts on behalf of the Minister of Finance. Corporation Sole carries out the corporate function. This includes representation of the minister's shareholders' meetings, establishment of new state enterprises, and divestment of state enterprises when it becomes feasible to do so. we look forward to today's discussions.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll ask either Mr. Bennett or the CEO to say a few words. Which one?
Chair, if you would allow me.
Yes.
Good day, everyone. VMCOTT is pleased to be before the committee today to assess its financial standing. We avail ourselves to take any questions and to follow up on any recommendations made by the Public Accounts Enterprise Committee. And we thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, once again, on behalf of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, may I warmly welcome again all of the officials from the three entities that are before us today. I also want to welcome my colleague, Mr. Keith Scotland, who has joined us. As I did indicate to you that he was here, and he has joined us. Now, I would like to begin by getting some clarification from the officials who are here from VMCOTT. And the first area I would like to ask for clarification on deals with the challenges being experienced by VMCOTT regarding the unavailability of funds to conduct the outstanding annual audits, as well as the recovery of receivables from government and state enterprises in a timely manner. That is the first area I'd like to have clarified, because as you know, we are only able to conduct this inquiry based on the 2015 and 2016 financial audited accounts. So we have 17 outstanding, 18 outstanding, 19 outstanding, 20, 21, 22, and of course 23 and 24 to come. So who would like to provide this committee with an understanding as to why is the company experiencing challenges in locating funds? And I must let you know, based on my figures before me, between 2017 to 2022, VMCOTT would have spent close to $80 million. So you have spent money and no audited accounts have been submitted by VMCOTT. And one of the challenges that you advance, partially for not satisfying that submission or those submissions, is the unavailability of funds. So can you clarify for us what are the challenges in that area, as well as to tell us the challenges concerning the recovery of receivables on a timely manner? Who will answer that from VMCOTT?
Chair, respectfully, as the chairman of the board of directors at VMCOTT, I will take the opportunity to answer that, or to offer an answer. With regard to the inability to satisfy the requirement for the audited accounts, the challenge that was met by my board was one where, when we assumed office in 2016, it was rather a challenging time with VMCOTT not being able to engage in monies collected from debts owed to VMCOTT. So the receivables were in excess of $30 million. Additionally, VMCOTT then, and prior to 2016, had had a situation where they were taking parts from a number of suppliers and were heavily indebted to these suppliers. And one of the things that came about was a question of litigation by the private sector, who in fact were supplying the parts, where it is abundantly necessary for VMCOTT to do the work that they are designed to do. We had to take a decision to engage in payments which were arranged between those who we owed and ourselves using the subvention that we had at the time. At the same time, to continue with the purpose of being a fleet management provider to the public sector, ministries, and in particular at that time it was the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as well as PTSC. And before that, we had a mandate where we would engage with the public. So the citizens, companies outside, we were placing emphasis on attracting more clientele, because it is one of the situations where VMCOTT, although having a financial challenge, cannot take a ministry to court or bring about litigation for monies owed to it. We were heavily dependent on our line ministry in that regard.
May I?
Yes. Why?
I'm not understanding, because it brings me to my next question, piggybacking. VMCOTT is receiving monies, but persons are owing, entities are owing VMCOTT money, correct?
Correct.
Stick a pin there and just tell the chair, through you, chair, how much money is outstanding to VMCOTT as of now?
I will refer that question, with your permission, Chair. I would like to respond to the member through my finance manager in that regard.
Thank you. Finance manager.
Good morning, everyone, again. In terms of the outstanding information, based on the outstanding debts, as to date, we have a total of outstanding payables of amount of, the exact figure as I read, $8.6 million.
So $8.6 million is owed to VMCOTT by various agencies?
8.6 million is what we owe.
No. How much money is owed to VMCOTT?
Yes.
The amount, because I thought you said payables. I want receivables.
Yeah. Receivables,
okay. Yeah. Receivables.
Yeah.
All right. In terms of the total amount of receivables up to date, we have close to $37.4 million.
Right. Chair, through you.
Yes.
What is VMCOTT doing to get its money?
Yes.
Again,
Who will answer?
I will answer.
Yes.
Because VMCOTT has embarked on a program where our finance department is making every effort on a monthly basis to call directly, to write these people and let them know that they're indebted to us, to recover our receivables that are outstanding.
Chair, when I interrupted when I intervened, I heard the chairman say that the VMCOTT has issues in taking persons to court to get back its money. Did I hear it correct?
Yes, honourable member,
can't?
it is correct. I can't.
Why can't you?
Because this is a mandate coming out of the Ministry of Finance as the corporation sole, and we have guidelines that instruct us not to do that.
Sorry, Chair, can I just piggyback out of a question asked? So you would have identified what the current debts are, the current receivables. 8.6 million is what VMCOTT is owing. and 37.4 million is what is being owed. This $37.4 million that is being owed to VMCOTT, can you just clarify for me what is the period of time that this money, this debt that is being owed to you, it was accumulated over what period of time?
Yes, I can. This was for a period of time as far back as 2012 to present.
Okay.
So money is owed, just to place on the public record and of course to the benefit of the public. This $37.4 million that is being owed to your entity was accrued for the period 2012, you have said, to the current period 2012 to present.
That's correct.
Yeah? Okay. And the debt, the money is now that is owed to, so that's money that's owed to us. Monies that VMCOTT owes to other entities, that 8.6 million. Can you clarify the period in time in which you would have accrued that debt?
Based on our current exercise, that's for the period from 2015 to present.
2015 to present. And I would imagine I don't want to speculate, but it could very well be that debt that would have accrued to the entity from 2016 to current could very well be as a result of the monies that you're still waiting for that was accrued for the period 2012 to current.
That's correct.
Just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Chairman, sorry, madam, I was off to you, always off to you.
Go ahead. No. I think you have a question.
Wouldn't the amounts from 2012 to now, have you kept the debt alive, meaning, I don't want to lawyer here, but I must. Have you gotten the creditors to acknowledge that debt within the last 4-year period, whatever quantum is owing before 2020, because we're in 2024, and you do have a 2-year, about an 18-month extension due to COVID to file a claim. But you know that a debt owing, it's statute barred after 4 years. The VMCOTT is aware of that?
Chair, may I respond to the member? No, VMCOTT is not aware of a debt owing being statute barred. However, in response to your concern, I will say that we have kept that debt alive and we continue to collect. In one instance, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has owed VMCOTT monies from inception, from as far back as 2004. And we are conducting an exercise right now. We have received some payments from them, and we are still pursuing the collection of that outstanding amount. In addition, within recent time, the Ministry of Works and Transport has been the mediator in resolving a debt owed to VMCOTT by the Public Transport Service Corporation, where we collected in excess of $6 million, I think it was $6.5 million, of course, which was utilized to reduce the monies that we owe to our debtors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. When I look at your response, your report to us, number 18, what recommendations have VMCOTT's internal auditors proposed in relation to the risk of VMCOTT that's most susceptible to? And I see things like a need to follow up. This is page 4 of your report. A need to follow up on the amounts owed to VMCOTT in a timely manner, the need to engage credit customers in ongoing reconciliation exercises, the need to exercise due care and diligence in inputting information into the computer system, that is data entry, to ensure debtor statements are accurate, and the need to undertake due care and diligence in the filing of source of documents to allow for ease of retrieval at any time in the future. So these are the comments that the internal auditors are making to you. These are the recommendations. So these things are lacking. Seems to me to point to an attitude of nonchalance, that you are being generous, that you are not really concerned or worried about this money that is outstanding in a company that needs money, and yet you are found to be wanting. In inputting information, you have staff there who are charged with these responsibilities, and there's not due care and diligence. It's as though, like people believe that money owed to government is, shouldn't be recovered. I think these are very serious statements made and serious indictment against your attitude towards these outstanding money in a time when we need the money. What is your response?
Chair, permit me.
Yes.
Member, if I may address the concern that you have.
The internal auditor.
The internal auditor.
Internal auditor's
yes,
concern.
the internal auditor made these based on his assessment of what was going on at VMCOTT at that time. We've had a number of changes of staff. We've had miscreants who would come there and work for VMCOTT and representing erroneous information being passed. For example, I would tell you for my personal experience, when I became the chairman of the board of directors in 2016, the prior management never brought certain things to the attention of the board. And that is where, when we queried the internal auditor's processes and his assessment of the processes and that sort of thing, this was brought out. We are at present remedying that. We have made attempts in the past to engage persons because the critical areas in VMCOTT are finance and HR. And we've had people employed there, and people come into an organization like VMCOTT thinking that it's a government service, and they don't have to work diligently and continuously in doing what is required. However, with these points that were brought to the attention of the board and the management of VMCOTT by the internal auditor, we've tightened up on the processes, and I will tell you that our present finance manager is working diligently in ensuring that we have competent staff to do the job and that we adhere to the concerns expressed by the internal auditor in recovering our monies and clearing out our debts. I also want to take this opportunity to say that the CEO herself, upon appointment as acting CEO, made the organization be in a better standing because for some strange reason, being a woman, she was able to manage the finances in a more prudent manner to get things done and to pay all those people who were challenging us with regard to taking us to court for the monies owed to them. So we have gone into a number of situations where first of all, we're fixing the internal processes. We have had situations where, with regard to data entry, input and output is reliant on the person doing it. So junk in is junk out. We have had situations with regard to our operating systems and software crashing. We've been remedying that. We had to change our software program because we were heavily dependent on a system that was originally installed that came out of the UK, one named Tranman, that did not give us the process from input, throughput, output, and the establishment of invoicing in a timely fashion. We've now gone into a new operating system that's called Fuse 5, which is much more user-friendly for the purpose of generating these invoices and billing in a timely fashion. So we have been making every effort based on the recommendations by the said committee that we are at here today, and with the internal auditors' involvement to remedy that situation.
Thank you. I can't say I understand the gender point, but be careful. Remember, you're a man, and you want to remain in your position.
With regard to that, I am in touch with my feminine side. And the gender point is, I think that because of being a householder, somebody involved in a household, they tend to make better decisions than men do. Because I've had some male finance managers, I've had some female finance managers, and there is a clear distinction.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, I don't think we want to get into that. We don't want to get into that. May I just follow up on this issue? You said in your opening statement about fleet management provider. Can you tell this committee whether VMCOTT, as we speak, has a fleet management unit? And do you have a fleet manager running that unit on behalf of VMCOTT? Can you clarify for this committee?
Chair, when I referred to VMCOTT as a fleet management organization, VMCOTT is empowered to provide services from purchase to disposal. In other words, we have the capacity to procure vehicles.
Mr. Bennett, I asked a direct question. Give me a direct response. Does VMCOTT, as we speak, have on its establishment a fleet manager? Is either yes or no, or you are seeking to acquire one? Can you answer the question directly as put to you?
The direct answer is yes, sir.
You have a fleet manager.
Yes,
what is
sir.
the name of that fleet manager? When was that fleet manager employed? Can you tell this committee?
The CEO performs the act as the fleet manager because she's the chief executive officer of the organization.
No. Wait. The CEO has specific functions.
Correct.
In the law. We are talking about a company that has responsibility for fleet management. That is your mandate that was given to you by the cabinet in 2005. So from 2005 to 2023, you want to tell this committee that the CEO that has specific functions is your acting? Look, this is not a Dolly House or Mickey Mouse inquiry, you know. We have a constitutional mandate to report. And I want you, particularly, to take this committee seriously. When we ask questions, we want straight answers. Because we have to report to our principals, the House of Representatives. So what we are asking you, and you have to be truthful, because if you are found not telling the truth, there are consequences. I want you to know that. So can you tell this committee, Mr. Bennett, one, do you have on your organizational chart or staff establishment a post called fleet manager? This is the third time I'm asking that question. Can you tell us directly if you have a fleet manager?
No.
Okay.
Chairman, may I just?
Yeah.
So
Mike.
The chair's asked you two questions, and the tone you're getting just represents the seriousness of the issue. So I just want you to focus on the question. There are two questions. In the organizational structure, is there a position called fleet manager?
In the response to that, the answer is no. In the organizational structure, there is no position of a fleet manager.
So the CEO, so you must clarify yourself. So the CEO acts as the fleet manager, correct?
That's correct.
Don't you think it prudent, sir, seeing that VMCOTT is involved with fleets, that notwithstanding that there's no position in the structure, that you ought to appoint a fleet manager, in keeping with the first question by the chair, so that the CEO could concentrate on the CEO's mandate? Don't you think that that may be sagacious?
In response to that, the chair asked that question, and I think, if I'm permitted, Chair, to respond.
Go ahead.
VMCOTT is a fleet management service provider.
Yes.
VMCOTT does not require to have a fleet manager because VMCOTT's fleet is 5 vehicles.
But that's so then answer it like that, sir. Okay, so in other words, so the CEO can properly act and manage 5 vehicles, yes?
That's VMCOTT's fleet. However, if the TTPS has a fleet of 1,050 vehicles, VMCOTT can manage that on behalf of the fleet of
on behalf
TTPS.
Of the PTSC?
Yes.
And who would be that? Would that be the CEO, or is that someone who's designated?
That's the organization made up of the CEO and respective appointed personnel that complement the staff in the org structure.
Thank you, Chairman, for that clarification. Thank you.
You're very welcome, member.
Yes, may I continue?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah. I want to ask you to go to page 20 of the PKF financial statement dated September 30th, 2016. You would see a note to the accounts. It is page 20, 20, PKF. Right. Mr. Bennett, I like the CEO to speak at times, eh? Mr. Bennett, I like the CEO to speak at times because she's the CEO. All right. I would like you to clarify for us the following. We are told on page 20 of this financial statement that the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Corporation sought the help of VMCOTT in acquiring 10 panel vans for its use at a cost of $2.9 million. We understand from the note that the vehicles that were acquired by VMCOTT on behalf of TT Post did not meet the specifications outlined in the invitation to bid issued by the TT Post, and therefore were not accepted. And VMCOTT has agreed to refund 50% deposit paid by TT Post for the said vehicles. Could you explain, because I'm trying to wrap this thing around my mind, can you explain to this committee how can a professional company or corporation that understands or ought to understand fleet management concepts so that you are being asked to acquire vehicles for TT Post, and they have sent to you specific or a set of specifications that you ought to follow. And yet still, we are being told on page 20 that you brought the wrong vehicles, because that is what we are being told in layman's language, that you bought the wrong vehicles, and therefore TT Post could not have accepted those vehicles, and VMCOTT had to resell those vehicles at a loss, we understand, of close to $300 and something thousand. I think $374,000 according to my figures. So again, Mr. CEO, Madam CEO, could you explain to this committee, as the person in charge of the company, because I don't think, Mr. Bennett, are you a full-time executive chairman, or are you a non-full-time chairman?
Non-full-time chairman.
Okay, thank you. So I'm asking the CEO now, because the CEO is in charge of the company. Okay? Madam CEO, how long have you been working at VMCOTT?
Yes, Chair. Good morning again. I've been employed at VMCOTT since 2004, so it's 20 years. I've moved up to 6 positions and now the CEO. So I've seen the shortcomings and failures of the past management, and that is exactly what happened during that period. Back then, they procured the wrong vehicle. I was the purchasing coordinator then, and when I was given that appointment, the purchase and arrangement was already made. However, what from my recollection back then, I think they seek board approval to try and sell the vehicles to offset outstanding debts owed to suppliers back then, which was a lot of money. So some of the suppliers that was owing us in excess of $1 million and so on, they used the vans to offset it. TT Post refused to accept the vehicles because one, they didn't ask for a dual fuel, which is CNG, and where the tank was placed was in the back of the tailgate, so it would have been made it difficult for them during their deliveries to stack their meals and so on. They also complained about they wanted a high top and it was a low top, so the storage area was of course less than what they bargained for.
Would you say that, for instance, that experience would have taught you that we had square pegs in round holes at that time?
Yes, Chair, I will agree. Back then, yes, they had square pegs in round holes.
And would you say that from your experience working in the organization and being elevated upward to the post of CEO, would you tell us that, or share with us whether you have gained the necessary experiences to avoid such pitfalls in the future, given the fact that you have reached that post of CEO, given the past experiences?
Well, yes, Chair. I've seen the shortcomings and failures of the past management and CEO, hence the reason, because of our recent mandate in 2009 to go to the public, is a different ball game. So we try to try and find the best suitable professionals to do the job. When it comes to specs, because I come from a background of mechanics, when it comes to procuring for specs and so on, we seek guidance from our line ministry, our DPS and PS, in terms of the process. And because of my experience as well, with the technical team that we have on board right now, we're able to procure exactly what the client wants. So thus far, we have not had that problem as occurred back then. We were able to successfully procure for the Ministry of Works and Transport Licensing Department thus far, and we do our recent tender for the TTPS. We did one last year as well for them, where we procured 104 vehicles for their operations thus far. So I've learned from the past experience, and I know exactly how to do a proper procurement in compliance with what the client requires.
Well, that's very good. May I ask the Ministry of Finance, Investment Division, Could you share with us, there, and tell me if I'm right on this one, there are various grades of boards or levels, whether it's an A-class board or B. Can you tell this committee, in the case of VMCOTT, what grade is VMCOTT on the pecking order? Anybody from the Ministry of Finance? Is it an A-class board, a B-class board, a C-class board, a D-class board? Could you tell us?
We'll have to get back to you, but it's not an A-class board. You can confirm. You just need to confirm whether it's a B or a C.
Because the reason why I'm asking that, I want to know what are the entitlement or terms and conditions that directors, including the chairman, enjoy. Whether, for instance, they get a flat salary of X dollars, they get a cell phone, they get a laptop, do they get a car on a permanent basis if you're not an executive chairman? These are things we would like to clarify.
Okay, so, but at least I can tell you that all the boards, A, B, C, they are entitled to a director fee. It has a chairman fee. It has a director fee, a travel allowance. They are not entitled to a motor vehicle. They may have access to a laptop, which is a company-owned laptop, in accordance with the manual, but the fees are final. There are no other allowances for board of directors. We can get back to you.
Yeah, because I want to get some clarification on that, right?
On the exact fees, yes.
Yeah, because I have some questions, but before I ask Mr. Bennett those questions, I want to make sure that I have all the facts on this matter. But let me go on to something called inventories, right? Because I'd like to get some clarification on that particular matter. Now, I saw somewhere in the statement that I have before me, and tell me if I'm wrong, I am going to page 6 of the report of 2016 PKF. That is, dealing with the accounts, not the notes. And I'm seeing something called net change in inventories. And I'm seeing where in 2015, there was a minus 3.7 million. And then when we looked at 2016, we saw 2.9 to almost $3 million in inventories being purchased for use by VMCOTT. Can you provide this committee with a breakdown of this $3 million in terms of what inventories would have been acquired during that period? And could your accountant or finance manager explain to this committee why this boost or increase in the allocation for inventories for VMCOTT is not reflected in the bottom line in terms of the revenues generated by the company, because the revenue appear to be flatlined. But yet still, we have a huge inventory of $3 million in 2016, yet revenue is stagnated. Can somebody explain that for this committee? what has happened with the inventory of $3 million in 2016? Or can anybody clarify that first?
Chair, may I?
Yes.
Back then, we were doing police vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we will do, we will stock inventory, because when they come in, we don't have time to run out and get parts. So we will have a huge inventory. Yes, we know to carry inventory is a cost, but it was required back then. So we will run up debts to get inventory for the TTPS, and of course they will not pay in a timely manner. So for example, back then in 2015, 2016, they'd start to make some payments on the invoices in 2020. And that is the challenge that we're having. So that is why the inventory was so high back then. We still have inventory right now as we speak, and the inventory is for outdated makes and models of vehicles that's on the road that the TTPS no longer own, like the Kia Sorentos, the Suzuki Liana, all those vehicles. And back then, we also had inventory from since 2004, when they owned the Astra, Vauxhall, the Cherokee Jeep, and those different makes and models, that the TTPS will somewhat utilize other garages, although we have an inventory of parts for them to conduct the repairs, and we stuck with the inventory. So hence the reason the value of the inventory is so high. To date, we still have that inventory. We just move it to our obsolete section. Why? Because those makes and models of vehicles is no longer on the market, which we try to attract the private customers to purchase, but still it's limited because, of course, we're seeing this, the makes and models now is more modern as opposed to the makes and models back then owned by the TTPS and the private citizens.
Tell me something. Can you tell us the 3.773 million in inventories at the end of 2015 financial year? I see a minus figure. Can you explain whether this, let's round it off to 4 million. Has this been written off? Is this dead inventory or inventory? What is going on with this $4 million at the end of 2015 in inventories or inventories? Can you tell this committee, based on what you have just said, with the changing of fleets, models, and so on, those spare parts that we would have purchased, when I say we, the taxpayers, and you representing them as the CEO at that material time or at some other level, would you want to tell this committee whether this $4 million is dead money in terms of spare parts, and as such written off? Can you clarify for this committee? Because I would like to know,
yes, Chair.
And the members would like to know.
Yes, Chair, it is dead money, and it has not been written off. It's still in our inventory. We just have it in a different area called obsolete, where we can account for it, and it is secure.
So
but it is dead money.
Is
Chair.
there any way of auctioning, or because I know procurement was recently proclaimed.
Yes.
Right? But before that, right? I'm just asking you, what advice has been given to the company by your finance people as to how we treat with this dead stock? Do we seek to get finance to advise you on the procurement? And as my friend mentioned, that is Mrs. Sagram Suklal, she indicated about procurement. Do you have any system in place consistent with the new procurement legislation to dispose of the dead stock?
Yes, we have a disposal committee that has been set up to deal with that aspect of the stock.
Okay.
We have that set up.
All right. Well, I'll pause for a moment. I'll ask Mrs. Suklal, but before Mrs. Suklal come in, I think you wanted to raise a point, and then I'll go to Mrs. Suklal.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, true. I was just wondering if, over the years, if VMCOTT has been advertising to the general public that there are these parts available for sale, advertising, out there, so that people would know what is available, because people are always looking for spare parts, You'd be surprised that there are still a number of people with old vehicles, And all of them going to the bamboo, so maybe you could have been giving the bamboo some competition.
Yes, I think Mr. Suklal wanted to raise. Suklal.
Chair, thanks for the opportunity. And of course, I'm not springboarding off, a bit off of Ms. Member Thompson I's question. I would imagine you would not have been able to do that, of course, because of what the incarnation of the procurement legislation at that point in time. And I must commend you all for having already in place a disposal of public assets structure in your organization, because now, of course, this dead asset doesn't necessarily have to be a dead asset. You can use the legislation that, of course, was passed and proclaimed by the current administration to the benefit of the entity, and, of course, see what you can recover from that asset. But there are some questions that I have on my own because, of course, we as members of the committee have the benefit of reading submissions, a lot of submissions, mind you. But, of course, the public looking on would not have had that benefit. We started off with Mr. Bennett, of course, Honourable Chairman, you would have identified very clearly the challenges that you would have faced. And correct me if I'm wrong, you took chairmanship of VMCOTT in 2016. Correct. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would have made notes based on some of the challenges you would have identified as a new chairman of this existing entity that you would have encountered, right? And some of those challenges you would have placed on your record here today, of course, would have been things such as receivables owed to VMCOTT in excess of $30 million. And from your finance director, we got the exact figure, which was $37.4 million. You would have indicated to the committee that another challenge the board would have encountered, of course, would have been the debts that would have been accrued by the entity, which is in the amount of $6.8 million. You would have also identified that when you took chairmanship of VMCOTT, your new board had to make serious decisions in order, in my words now, to clean up what you would have inherited. Your CEO would have jumped into the dance and made a statement of poor management that she would have inherited, your honourable office would have inherited from a previous management team. And I would imagine that would have posed significant challenges as well, now sitting as a new CEO in the entity. You would have identified that, so generally those were some of the challenges that you would have placed on your record that you would have faced. I want to now go to your finance director. So you would have placed on your record what the challenges were. And through you, Chair, if I can ask some questions to the finance director, director of finance. Time and time again, entities like yourself come before this committee, and they are usually a newly appointed board that has to take licks for things that existed predating their existence. In the report, in your submissions, your late submissions of audited financial statements in response to recommendation 1.1, which is actually question 8, which is at page 2 of your late submissions. You were asked to identify, the entity was asked to identify a clear timeline. If I may read for the benefit of the public, you were asked to provide in detail the expected timeline for the audit of all annual financial statements to be conducted in a timely manner and submitted within the statutory time frame of 4 months after the financial year ends, right? And VMCOTT's financial statement, and your response to that question was, VMCOTT's financial statements are currently being audited by the audit firm, PFK Limited Trinidad. These are the current status of the various years. And you would have gone on to provide this committee, which, of course, the members of the listening public doesn't have the benefit to read. But I want to read it into the record because I believe, to be fair to the entity, it should not, the impression that the public should not go away with is that this board have not been doing things to put their house in order. And I want to be fair to you all, because this is what I am reading before me, which the members of the public do not have the benefit of reading. And what you have indicated to us is that audited financial statements 2016 is a 98% complete. Audited financial statements 2017-2018 is 85% complete. Audited financial statements 2018 to 2019 scheduled to commence on March 2024. Audited financial statements 2019-2020 scheduled to commence on May 2024. Audited financial statements 2020-2021 scheduled to commence on July 2024. And audited financial statements 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 will be scheduled for commencement and completion in the financial period 2024 to 2025 as the initial aim to have all audited financial statements updated within the specified period and financial period. So you have in your report to us given us timelines as to when you intend to really have a clean bill of health as it relates to your financial health of the entity. Now, tell me then, so you, no doubt, Chairman, I would have started with you, would have placed on the record the challenges you would have inherited when you took chairmanship. CEO, you would have identified the challenges you would have encountered when you took over as CEO. To the financial director now, we're in 2023, and you're still at a stage where you are 98% complete in your financial statements for 2016 to 2017. Would you say at all that the challenges encountered for the period predating 2016 is what accounted for you not being able to have that clean bill of health that I'm referring to as it relates to the entity having its financial statements in order?
Yes, that is correct.
And can you therefore identify, for the benefit of this committee and of course the members of the listening public, what were those challenges you all would have encountered that would have prevented you from being here in 2023 and having your financial statements where it ought to be?
All right, through the chair, I will respond. Well, basically, the challenges since being appointed of July 2023, we have to go through all the relevant reconciliations, all right, past information, as what was previously mentioned by the chairman and the CEO, of some of the outstanding debts and the receivables. So we have to focus on exercises enabled to retrieve the relevant funds, as well as to ensure all the previous arrangements in terms of all the internal controls are met by advice by the internal auditor, and make sure all the relevant controls and systems are set up to go forward to trap all the information for the preparation of financial statements.
And I think that is clear, and that has to be clear to the members of the public who are listening on. And again, it's just to be fair to the entity, because again, I would reiterate the point that I made earlier on. Sometimes entities come in 2023 and they have to take licks because unfortunately they're now sitting, heavy is the head that wears the crown. But it's because of, as the CEO would have put, perhaps mismanagement that would have occurred a period predating the current board's existence. Now, in your late submissions at paragraph 9 of your late submissions at page 51, the entity was asked, when did the implementation of initiatives to ensure intensification of the monitoring of financial accounts to ensure prompt closure in books commence? The answer that VMCOTT gave to that question was, this commenced in 2015 to 2016. Before I ask a question, Chair, I want to commend you then, because it means that you took chairmanship in 2016, correct? And in 2016 was when an effort was made to, at least based on the response that you all would have given here, it's clear to me that that was when initiatives to ensure the intensification of monitoring financial accounts to ensure prompt closure of books began under your chairmanship. So therefore, what happened prior to 2015? Was it? I mean, that is my question. So if it is only in 2016 that intense efforts were made to manage and intensify how this entity ran its business, prior to 2015, what happened? What were the systems in place? Would you be able to answer that question, financial manager?
No, I would not be able to.
But based on occupying the office, is there any member of the entity, especially Madam CEO, because you have been at the entity for very long, and I know you did place on the record that you encountered poor management. Was it that it was a parlor or shop being run where nobody was accountable prior to 2016? That everybody was just doing what they want? I mean, I don't want to speculate and I don't want to put words in your mouth. But that is concerning to me because this is a long existing entity. And if you are telling me that only in 2016 structures were being put into place to intensify the monitoring of financial accounts, then what happened in 2015? What happened in 2014? What happened in 2013? What happened in 2012? What beyond that? What happened? Being in the organization for a period of time, would you be able to give us some kind of... And of course, I don't want to move away too much from what the purpose of this interrogation is, because we are looking at a financial period of 2015 to 16. But again, we have an obligation to the country to be able to say to them, this is how your money is being spent. And if only in 2016, under your chairmanship, Mr. Bennett, that systems are being put into place, then surely we must be able to say to the public what happened prior to 2015. I'm not sure if you may be able to explain what you would have encountered upon taking control of the board.
I will elaborate after the CEO responds to you.
Thank
respectfully, through the chair.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to address the honourable member concern. Back then, I can say it's garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, I was not in that capacity to actually see, but I would have seen the final product, and I'm seeing it to date. Because they didn't update their systems properly, we had a fleet management system called TranMan, which was pretty complicated back then, and you need a proper fleet management software to capture data. And that was the issue back then with that software. The cost to upgrade that software was something like in excess of $1 million annually, and we were at the lowest version. We were at version 4 back then. And back then, version 15 was already out. So we were not getting the updates necessary to run the business and to capture the data. Also, the software was not integrated with the invoicing. So it was not compatible with the finance software. So it have to be done manually by staff. So now that we're checking back records and looking in the back office, you can't find some things, information is being missed out and so on. So when this board took over and I was appointed to act, because I know the experience I experienced back then with the past software, we made a recommendation and we got a fleet management software that is now integrated with the financial software as well. So it's all the back offices link from inception when a vehicle comes in to capture the data, straight up to the purchasing of the parts required, to the actual invoicing to the customer. So we were able to fix it back then. But back then, I was not in that capacity to really look and see exactly what were the issues. It's just the end of it. The end of it, I was able to realize that of course, it was poor management, and we didn't have the tools back then as well to do the job.
If I may add to that, there was little or no effort on the part of the management and board at that time, and previous boards and management, to retrieve monies owed by enforcing the accounting unit of the entity to get and collect the quantum of receivables. When we came on board, we came with a reduced staffing of the board because the board was 9 at that time, and we recognized that there was a need to improve software programs and other things, and we were looking for the right fit of staffing to make sure that all of the processes in recovering monies owed to VMCOTT were met. And that's a challenge we still encounter today.
And of course, my senior and I, being attorneys, I think that is why Honourable Member Scotland would have basically, asked the question, what steps VMCOTT has taken to keep the debt alive, to ensure that it really does not become statute bar, because that is the real challenge of monies due and owing. Is that, of course, the debt can become statute barred, and of course the entity doesn't have an opportunity through the courts to make a claim. So I'm particularly happy that upon your chairmanship, attempts are being made to keep what we term in law revived or alive, those debts, so that it really does not become statute bound. You're doing this for the benefit of the listening public by engaging, if I understand well, in negotiations through the Ministry of Works and Transportation, through negotiations with the debtors, those persons who are in debt to you, negotiations with them. Maybe as it relates to payment plan, that's what I'm getting. Some sort of arrangements, if I don't want to refer to it as a payment plan, but arrangements to ensure that the debts are serviced. And coming, so of course, like my colleagues, especially times that we exist in, 37 point something million owed is a significant amount of money that, of course, if you're able to claim back, it will assist your organization tremendously. Now, yes,
I want to raise some questions.
Of course, Chair.
Yeah.
Of course.
Chairman, through you, I want to ask a related question and then another issue. Would VMCOTT consider some of your receivables may be linked to an entity that has payables? So you may be owing, but a same entity may be owing VMCOTT. Have you ever considered the concept of setting off in order to reduce what you have payable? So there's one entity who's owing you, and the same entity you're owing them. Have you considered setting off? It's a tried and proven concept. That's the first question. And secondly, well, Chairman, could I, maybe the finance manager answer that, or the CEO, and then I move on to my question about staffing?
Yes. Could someone answer?
Yes, with respect to the first question, Chair, may I answer?
Yes.
We have engaged in a number of arrangements. For example, we have engaged TT Post to maintain their fleet for them and offset some of the monies we owe them. That has not come to fruition because a number of these entities choose to go elsewhere and have services provided. And we have an arrangement where we have a payment plan with them to offset the monies we owe to them on a monthly basis. So that is one instance.
All right. Chairman, having said that, can I turn our attention, members, to page 7, item 3 of the submissions? And what are the challenges? Question 3, what challenges have been experienced during VMCOTT's pursuit of its strategic objective? Chairman, do you see the answer that's there, members? Government ministries and state agencies, in most instances, do not adhere to the mandate that they subscribe to their vehicles of VMCOTT services. In the rare instant that they do subscribe, payments are either made in an untimely manner or not at all. Is that the state of affairs as we speak?
Chairman or CEO?
Yes, may I answer through you, Chair? Yes, member. Yes, that is the current state.
And what is being done to arrest this situation by VMCOTT?
So what we do on a monthly basis, the challenge we have with that right now is the fact that the entities that is owing us from back then, most of the persons that is aware of the transaction and so on, they would have either retired by now. So what we're doing, we're revamping the system by sending them statements, documentation that they required. And so far we're getting some small payments. We're still in a lot of negotiations with them because they're still looking for their documentation and we're in meetings and dialogues. But most of them, like the corporations and so on, they already agreed to payment. Once the documentation meet their satisfaction and they get the approval, they already made commitments to pay.
Mr. Chair, Madam CEO, through the chair, the first line in the response is that state agencies do not adhere to the mandate to subscribe their vehicles. What is being done to deal with that? It is almost counterintuitive.
Chair, if I may be allowed to answer the member.
Yes, please.
At my level as chairman, I interact directly with ministers at the level where, in particular, my line minister, I keep him in the loop and allow him to know what's happening. We work alongside TTPS and with the investment division of the Ministry of Finance, reporting directly to the corporation sole. And there has been a number of efforts through cabinet minutes to reiterate the role and function of VMCOTT. Still, there is pushback because in a number of instances, the fleet managers of the respective agencies do their own thing without the authorization of cabinet being adhered to.
Chairman, you've heard that. Members, have you heard that response? That is a remarkable response relative to the state of affairs. Chairman, I think we as a committee ought to make a recommendation in this regard, having regard to page 7, item 3. It's very concerning. And what you've told us there, Chairman, of VMCOTT is even more concerning. So you're saying that agencies of the state do not adhere to the mandate given to them by the state? That is what you've just told us.
I humbly and respectfully submit that I have just said that.
Wow. As it relates, the human resource, Chairman, this is directed to the human resource manager and the human resource department. Is there still a high level of staff turnover at VMCOTT? And if so, what is being done to address that state of affairs?
Chairman, through you, may I respond? The staff turnover, it has been arrested. However, what we are doing is currently engaging in a progressive process of recruitment of best fit persons into the organization.
And what would you say is the percentage of turnover now? Because I saw one of the concerns was a high turnover of staff. What would you say now is the percentage of turnover?
As of 2022, we gave a response of probably 25%. For the past 3 years, 2021, 8%, 2022, 35%, and as 2023, 25%.
Chairman, thank you.
But what is causing that essentially to take place? Can you explain? Why are they unhappy? Is their packages poor? What are the fundamental reasons for the high staff turnover?
Well, as stated by the chairman and the CEO, we've had issues with personnel. We've had non-renewal of contracts. It's primarily performance-based. We've had terminations and some job abandonments. The current state of affairs where persons believe that they don't need to stay within the company for their own personal reasons. But primarily, persons have their various reasons, and we are performance-based. So VMCOTT is pursuing the enforcement of its performance policies, and once persons don't adhere to those or don't meet those standards, we address it accordingly.
Chair, may I elaborate on that?
Yes, go ahead.
Because we are mandated to go out to the public, we have to operate like private sector. And if we don't operate like private sector, the private sector will not have no confidence in bringing their vehicles to VMCOTT. So we have to make sure and practice and provide a service in terms of diagnostic, customer service, management as well, just like the private sector. And that was the challenge that we had back then. Even the public sector, most of them now are coming back to VMCOTT. In the past, they would have left and never returned. Now, most of the ministries is actually engaging our services now as we speak. Because the service is, of course, it has improved drastically compared to the years gone by.
Chair, if I may also add, with your permission?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
One of the causes of the high rate of turnover of staff at VMCOTT is also the menial wages which they get. We have not had a salary increase since 2009. But with present situation, the HR manager, through the CEO, has been directed to review the staff JDs with the intention of approaching the CPO in the not too distant future to engage in discussions through the Ministry of Works and Transport to look at the salary review. So that's being conducted. But a number of persons who come into VMCOTT, because we operate at such a professional level, they are attracted by the other mechanical providers and other. For example, off the top, we have had a working relationship with YTEP. We introduced them to the fundamentals of mechanics. And the trainees who are successful are hired and recruited by Massey and Toyota. And that augurs well for VMCOTT because it reflects on the professionalism that comes out of VMCOTT. And it is in their interest where they could go to Massey and make a salary that's much bigger than our top technician. Our technicians are ranked Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3. So that is one of the reasons why there's a high rate of turnover as well.
Man, isn't that making road for others to run? If you train these people and they are at such a high level, wouldn't it be of consonance to have them remain in the organization? In other words, you train them so well, and then you say go and make others look good. Wouldn't it be? Now, if it's a matter of salary, why can't VMCOTT make, as a matter of urgency, address the issue of bringing the salary up to an attractive level so you keep the best personnel who, mind you, you have trained?
Chair, may I?
Yes.
Just to answer your question, Honourable Member, we have no control over that. The private sector pays more than the public sector right now. And when you bring in a technician and he's trained and he has perfected the art, because at VMCOTT it's just not one make and model of vehicle you fix. You fix any make and model of vehicle that is on the road of Trinidad and Tobago. A technician is not subjected to just mechanical. You learn wheel alignment, AC repairs. It's a combination of what is required in the entire industry that you learn. So once they get an offer out there, because we have technicians that has left and take up supervisory positions at dealership, and all how we try to convince them to stay, they will not. Also, we had technicians that left and gone to the States, now working at one of the dealers in Miami as well, the Ford dealers in Miami. And of course, he left, but he got the experience required, and he left.
Chairman, may I suggest this? And it's
Sure.
I'm trying to give you some free advice here. There may be, like if you get a government scholarship, right? You have a period where you come back and serve, right? Would VMCOTT consider a permutation of that arrangement so that you don't train your personnel and lose the cream of the crop? So it may even be a hybrid. The people on scholarship, they are obliged to come back and give something back to the country. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, you just need to tweak it. Why doesn't VMCOTT think of tweaking it so that the persons who you train at least give you a 6-month service or 8-month service, and so that VMCOTT could reap the benefit of the input in these persons, in the investment in their human resource? Have you all considered that?
Yes, Chair, through you. Actually, once we train them, they are obligated to stay at the organization for a period of 3 years. After that 3 years, they still leave.
Wow.
Not just 6 months, 3 years. But what we are doing, what I want to add is that we have partnered with CCC, partnered with MIC, Ministry of Sports, where we introduce young people, youths, to the fundamental of auto mechanics, where they do both theoretical and practical program at our facility. And right now we have 3 young people, 1 from MIC, and 4 of them from CCC. 2 has left before the end of their internship, because I think they've learned enough, and of course they went over to the private sector where they're getting, of course, more money. But we have so far 3 of them undergoing the internship as we speak.
I'm in your hands. I have no other useful suggestions other than we must find a way to keep the persons who we have invested so much in, at least, but make it attractive, be fair on both sides.
Yeah. May I ask the Ministry of Finance, as it relates to, do you receive monthly reports from the board of directors of that company called VMCOTT? Do you get regular reports, like how the state enterprise manual require them to submit regular reports to you? Can you advise?
Yes, we can confirm that we receive all the reports from VMCOTT on a timely basis.
Now, what kind of oversight role you conduct when it have challenges faced by this company? Well, the reason why I'm saying so, I have a management letter attached to Natasha Prince from PKF, and they have some very, very, very serious observations. Bank reconciliation, impairment, as examples. And a matter I want to get clear today, statutory deductions, NIB, health surcharge, PAYE, VAT, green fund levy, business levy. Can you give this committee an update on what is the state of play? Because when you were here in 21, VMCOTT was deducting monies from workers' salaries and wages and not remitting same to the NIB, including health surcharge and PAYE. Can you tell this committee whether you have any outstanding monies for the NIB, for the Board of Inland Revenue, for VAT Office? What is the state of play with statutory deductions? Who can answer that? CEO or Mr. Bennett?
I will answer that, Chair.
Yes.
Back then, I know that was a big issue. We have rectified that thus far. NIB, we paying up to current right now. The only challenge we have between 2016 and 2017, there was some arrears, which we have entered into a payment plan that we pay NIB every month. We arranged to pay $25,000. On some months, we pay $50,000. Anything we try and whatever cash we get to try and liquidate that debt. So we are current, up to date, as well as health surcharge. PAYE as well, we pay that every month. We just have some issues with the VAT back then that we are working on currently. We have liaisoned with the VAT office to give us the actual figure as to how much is being owed for which period, and of course to make arrangement to start to make payments. So we still are waiting that information from VAT office. but we have reached out to them in writing. So we are making we are making changes, positive changes, and we are addressing these things moving forward. So we should not have a backlog again, because every month we make sure and generate the revenue that we could pay our statutory deductions on time.
Do you have a fixed asset register?
Yes, we have a fixed asset register. Yes.
You have that, okay. I just want to ask the Ministry of Finance here. Can the ministry indicate whether there was a recent central audit conducted by the Ministry of Finance into the operation of VMCOTT? And if that is so, can this committee be made aware of that report?
The Investments Division is aware that the Central Audit Committee did conduct an audit, but I believe it was on with regards to the debt owed by the TTPS. However, the committee is advised to seek in writing from the Ministry of Finance, as the Central Audit Committee no longer falls within the purview of the Investments Division.
Okay, no, okay, all right. The other thing I wanted to, on page, what is page here? Let's see. Anyway, it's page 5 of the management letter of PKF. There is something entitled on that page. The heading is Difference Between the General Ledger and the Subsidiary Ledger. But before I go there, we saw in this report many internal control deficiencies plaguing this organization. Can you tell this committee whether the various internal controls deficiencies outlined in the PKF report to you, dated the 28th of September 2023. Can you tell us what is the current status of this PKF report as it relates to making sure that that company called VMCOTT is on even keel insofar as maintaining international financial standards in your operations? Can you share with this committee what has happened?
Chair, if you permit me, I will take the opportunity to invite the internal auditor and the finance manager, who are working very closely with each other to remedy the processes that were flawed and to bring it up to current international standards.
Yes.
Special good morning to you, Chair. Permit me to start by saying that it was quite easy for me to be able to convince this present management, led by the CEO, to be able to action the recommendations coming out of the Internal Audit Department. As this management has recognized and understand clearly that poor business processes across the organization will lead to inaccurate information and will impact negatively on the organization as a whole. This management also notes the fact that to make any process efficient and effective, it must be adequately supported by the use of information technology. As a result, in 2019, they aggressively pursued some of the recommendations where they introduced the Fuse 5 computer system that linked the front office, back office, linked the store's inventory, purchasing, and sales, invoicing, and information at the end of the day is pushed directly into the QuickBook financial system.
What's your name, sir?
Beg your pardon?
What's your name?
Larry Cummings.
Mr. Larry Cummings. Mr. Larry Cummings, I'm referring to PKF document dated the 28th of September 2023. Do you have a copy of that? I'm not dealing with 2019, you know.
Yeah, but I'm aware of some of the...
I am asking the question, what is the company VMCOTT doing to address these weaknesses and deficiencies in your accounting practices?
I'm getting to that, so
Yes, that is what I want to find out.
Currently, as we speak, we are aggressively following up on our receivables. Reconciliations are being undertaken. As we speak at this moment, they are moving out documents and looking at it to be able to support the evidence on amounts owed. This is something which we had inherited from previous management. Accounts are being settled. Supplier relationships are being restored. These are some of the impacts of the recommendations which are being implemented.
Mr. Bennett and Madam CEO, this is the second time we are given VMCOTT the opportunity to put your house in order. My friend Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal mentioned your statement of commitment to bring all your financials up to date by 2025. I find that is too long. For a company, what is the size of your staff? Can I find out? What is the size of your workforce as we speak?
Chair, may I direct that to the HR manager, thanks?
Yes, can I get that information?
Chair, currently 89 persons.
89 persons.
Yes.
You have a company of 89 persons. You have a budget of $10 million a year. And you cannot have your financials up to speed after 4 months at the close of the financial year. And you want until 2025 to bring all your books up to date. 2017, not here. 18, not here. 19. This is the last opportunity we are given to VMCOTT. We are not going to tolerate any further extensions. So this is a warning. Put your house in order. You are spending taxpayers' money. Up to $80 million I have checked so far, and you cannot put your house in order. So I'm asking you to do so. And these deadlines that we are reluctantly agreeing to, you will keep them and have all your books, all your audited accounts submitted to the Minister of Finance, to the line ministry, and therefore we can get those in time to conduct the proper inquiry that we are demanded and mandated and commanded by law and the Constitution to conduct. So I want VMCOTT to take this seriously and put your house in order. Now, we have to get certain things right. And I'm putting this question to Mr. Bennett. You are not a full-time executive chairman. You are part-time chairman. Can you tell this committee if you are in possession of a company's vehicle and whether you drive that vehicle on a daily basis. That is what we would like to find out. If you are in possession of a company vehicle, and I want to make it very clear, don't mislead this committee. There are consequences. Be frank. Let us know what is the situation. Because the only way, this is taxpayers' monies that we are dealing with here. And we want to make sure, in accordance with our mandate, that whatever expenditure that is issued by the Parliament is being spent in conformance with the law, to bring about efficiency, to bring about effectiveness, and to bring about economy. We need to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are properly spent. So that is why I'm asking these questions, to ensure that at VMCOTT we can help you to put your house in order if you have challenges. So can you share with this committee whether this question that I've put to you has any relevance or it is untrue?
Chair, can I ask a question before we proceed, please?
Yes.
I would like to make an intervention based on what the committee has been called here to discuss, which is the 2015 financial statement. So before we get to current circumstances, I would like to know if I can get an opportunity to intervene on some questions.
Yes, of course. You are going to get that in a short while, Mrs. Lizama. After my colleague answers, Mrs. Lizama will have the floor. Can I ask you to answer that question?
Chair, I'm not in possession of such. All vehicles belonging to VMCOTT are, in fact, marked, branded with VMCOTT in it, and I respectfully submit that that is irrelevant at this time.
No, you cannot tell this committee. Mr. Bennett, you're not in the army, you know. You're retired from that. You are before a committee that has a constitutional mandate to protect the taxpayers' dollars. If you are the chairman of VMCOTT and you are telling this committee under oath, well, not under oath, but you're telling this committee that you are not driving a company vehicle. This is on record.
Chair, respect.
So, please, I'm on the floor, please. I'm just asking Mr. Bennett, are you putting on the record of this committee that that issue is irrelevant? I just want to find out before I ask Mrs. Laurel Lizama to take the floor.
Chair, you asked me a question and I answered you.
Okay, so you do not drive a company vehicle. That is a fact?
That is correct.
Thank you. Mrs. Laurel Lizama, the floor is yours.
Chairman, thanks very kindly. Members, welcome. Good morning. I thank you for answering these questions. I know this inquiry is based on a period prior to the ascension to office for most of you. I do have a few questions coming out of the statements that you have made, and I have some questions coming out of your late submission documents as well. So I'll just start with some pre-questions from things that you have stated. Your $4 million inventory for overstocking for 2015, 2016, I think that's what you have said. Can I ask you, what was the process then for the overstocking? Is it that you just bought parts, or the company then bought parts? Was there a process for accessing these items for the inventory?
Yes, it was based on the repairs that we conducted for the client.
Yes.
Which was the TTPS. So depends on the makes and models and the urgency. Because of the type of client, we will stock inventory. And I know to carry the inventory was as a cost, but we have to stock the inventory that we repair the vehicles in a timely manner.
Okay.
Chair, if I may add, we did also stock some PTSD inventory, which were very expensive as well.
Okay.
And they no longer come to us for service.
Okay, so that explains a lot. So can I ask then, therefore, is there any change to the practice for stocking inventory as we've proceeded to 2023 so that we can minimize a recurrence of such an incident?
Yes, there's a change. We're not stuck in inventory anymore, at least that vast amount of inventory. We stock like fast-moving items, what we call consumables for quick service, oil filters, air filters, spark plugs, brakes. Even suspension parts we don't stock because, of course, that is costly for cradles and so on. So what we do basically, we have vehicles that we know that we purchased for the police recently, and we have dealers that will have the parts. So we don't stock the inventory. The supplier will stock the inventory, and we just request it on a need basis.
So that, in effect, can be considered somewhat of a cost-saving.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. I'm very, very happy to hear that. Thank you very kindly. That's one. The second thing is, Member Scotland referenced the high employee turnover, the human resource turnover. Can I ask you, on average, what is the lifespan of an employee in VMCOTT?
24 years. So far, we have people employed for 24 years, and they retire at the age of 60.
So the bulk of your staff is long-standing?
Long-standing.
So the high turnover comes from?
The temporary staff.
Just the temporary staff.
Those that just been employed about 10 years and under.
Okay. And so out of the majority of your employees who have been long-standing, were those employees, or this might be speculative, but were those employees participants, active participants in what I would consider a lethargical approach in the past of the management of the company?
Let me answer that respectfully. Management has a different role and function than the staff who have been there for 24 years. They have gotten to the point of supervisory level, but the management was culpable in the responsibility for smooth and efficient functioning of the entity at the time.
So you would consider now that we're fairly stable, VMCOTT is fairly stable now? Fairly, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about the audits very quickly, and then I'll get to this. Is there any particular reason why I may have missed it, but I know there's a huge backlog, and which is very disappointing, honestly, but is there a reason why the audits are outstanding and why you've been unable to process audits for 2016 and upward, or 17 and upward?
Yes. In 2016, upon being appointed, we inherited a number of audits that were not completed. I think it would have been 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. What happened is, at that time, we were restricted to having the annual audit completed 1 year at a time. When the board was appointed, we sought permission from the corporation sole through the AGM to get permission to do more than 2 years at one time. That also required payment in advance to the auditing firm, and subsequently we got confirmation of that in 2019, 2020, so we could have conducted 2 audits per annum, and we have placed the schedule on record that we will complete by 2024-25 all of the outstanding audits.
I appreciate that. I find it passing strange that you are not the only entity that has appeared before this committee that has encountered a similar problem of a backlog prior to ascension to board and the new management. And I wish you well, and I do look forward to receiving the new updated audits from you within the timelines prescribed, or that you have offered, actually. I want to ask you very quickly now about diversification. I know you talked about VMCOTT. This is in your late submission now, and I'm on page 6 of page 51. And you talked about diversification, innovation, and increased market share. And I just wanted an update insofar as how your diversification efforts. I know that the company has shifted or reshaped within the past few years. So I just wanted to ask you, what are the updates? What updates can you provide for us insofar as your thrust towards diversification and innovation? I appreciate what you have said about the internship, for want of a better word, with the persons coming on to become mechanics, etc. But if you could tell me a little more about that. I know you identified 3 things, the three aspects of the VMCOTT brands, which is VMCOTT public sector, the auto stop for the private sector, and auto show, which would be the new technologies, including CNG conversion. So can we just get a little update on that, please?
Sure. Through you, Chair, Honourable Member, in 2018, what we decided to do, I approached the board to launch 2 additional brands onto the VMCOTT brand. The VMCOTT Corporate Remain. We introduced VMCOTT Auto Stop, which is tailored to the private customers, which we have a mandate in 2009 to pursue, where we are open to the general public. Okay. And of course, VMCOTT Auto Show, which is tailored to the new technology. We have the hybrid, CNG, and of course, we're in the era of electrification, which is electric vehicles. Basically, what we did with those brands back then is try to get the general public aware of what VMCOTT has to offer. Because a lot of people have difficulties, even to date, in spite of our previous advertising, our social media platforms, different platforms that we use to market our services out there, people still having challenges saying, where's VMCOTT? What VMCOTT provide? So what we have done, we have reached out, because it's within our core function, we reach out to like the automobile sports in terms of drifting and so on, and car displays and car show. So what we do, we attract the general public to come to VMCOTT, where of course we will introduce them to our goods and services offered as well, and with the objective to get them interactive into VMCOTT, so they will get videos with different things in terms of mechanical questions and so on, and send it to us, and of course we provide, of course, the answers and so on. In addition to that, what we have done as well is that through the consumer affairs, we have been able now to partner with the dealership. So the local private dealership now is aware of VMCOTT. They utilize our services in terms of where we will do evaluation for them. Also the private law firms as well, when they have clients that have issues with their mechanics in terms of their repairs, and of course it end up in court, they will use VMCOTT as an external party to, of course, do an assessment, provide a report, provide evidence that will stand up in court. Thus far, we have won 6 cases. So that's some of the things that we do more or less.
Thank you, Chair. I just have
innovative.
3 very brief questions. Before, sure.
How many cases?
6 cases.
No, out of how many in the court?
Well, there's only 6 so far that has come to VMCOTT. That has reached the court. That has reached in court.
Wait.
Those are the industrial relations.
Could you tell this committee how many matters are before the industrial court?
Oh, industrial court?
Yes, in the industrial court.
Okay, but
dealing with VMCOTT?
Yes.
Can you give us
sure,
that answer?
Can I let my HR manager answer that, Chair?
Yes.
Sure.
So I think I see. I'll come back to Mrs. Laurel. Just want to clarify that. HR?
Chair, I can give you an approximate. We have approximately 4 to 5 matters before the industrial court. However, I can give you a more detailed response in writing.
And what about the High Court?
Same response. I can give you that in writing.
In writing, okay. Laurel, sorry about that.
That's all right, Chairman. Thank you very kindly. Now we're talking about recovery of monies. This is on page 12 of your late submissions. This TTSC's debt has been settled in full. The Ministry of National Security, on behalf of its agency, TTPS, is still ongoing. And I see here that there have been no agreed options. Can we get a little information on that, please?
Chair, if I may respond to the honourable member.
Yes.
There are interventions on behalf of VMCOTT by my line minister, Honourable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of National Security, Honourable MP Fitzgerald Hines, and of course the Corporation Sole and Minister of Finance, Honourable MP Contman Bird. They have determined that a further audit would be conducted, hence the reason why we have directed HR to pull out all of the documents, research everything, to confirm the amounts, and every effort is being made by the Cabinet to emphasize to the ministries to utilize VMCOTT.
Wanted to make sure that something was happening
Yes.
on that level. I'm very happy and satisfied to hear that. Now we move to page 19. You said in this document, number 4, it says, what were the reasons for approximately a 5.1 million decrease in purchases from 2015 to 16? And you said you lost the contracts with, and in it, it speaks to the high inventory cost. Are there any other contracts that were lost or any new contracts that have been gained? I know you're saying that the Cabinet, you've just said that the Cabinet has instructed that ministry and agencies use VMCOTT. But was there any particular reason back then why those contracts were lost? It just says here that VMCOTT lost the contracts, which led to a reduction in the purchasing inventory.
Sure.
Because there's a 5.1 million decrease.
May I answer, the honourable member? Back then, there was a decrease as well in our main customer, which was the TTPS, where they will not utilize our service. They will take it elsewhere. And we were not purchasing and replenishing the inventory back then. Because once we realized there's a drop in the productivity in terms of they bringing the vehicles to get them repaired, we decided to cut back. Back then, although I was not in that capacity, but I was in the purchasing department, so we were instructed by the then management to cut back on our purchases in terms of stocking inventory at our location for our primary customer.
Okay, well, that makes, I understand now. Thank you. And my final question, Chairman, is we go to page 21, and you've said that what new services were added to VMCOTT during the past 3 years and the impact of the new services. So I know you just spoke about the different things, but can you just give a little detail on the impact? Because the answer here doesn't actually give, it doesn't give too much detail here. So can I ask you?
Through you, Chair, may I?
Yes, of course.
What we have done for the past 3 years, we have gotten funding through PSIP from our line ministry to purchase updated and new equipment so we could expand our services. We have the upgraded transmission machines where we could repair high-end vehicles, so because that requires you have to pump out the oil and pump it in and so on. It's a special equipment that costs money. We also got funding to purchase some updated lifts, rotary lifts as well. So we have more lifts where we could do more services. We also have a nitrofill machine, as well as a rotodisc cutting machine, which is making a lot of revenue for us. Instead of we have downtime to take out a rotodisc, send it to the machine shop. We have a machine where we just disconnect the calipers and it measures and it polishes the rotors there on the spot. So that again is instant revenue as well. We also have a state-of-the-art scan tool, which is the latest launch, that goes into most of the high-end vehicles where we could reprogram the system, reprogram keys, check diagnostic codes and so on. So we doing other innovative things as well. In terms of hybrid, we send our staff for training as well. So they're now qualified in hybrid as well. And of course, AC. We have a new machine where it stocks, it pulls the gas, store it, it does the repair, it identifies the leaks. The technical staff repair the leak and it put back in the gas as stipulated by the manufacturer. So we have gotten a lot of new products by, with the aid of our line ministry to purchase these equipment. So now we could expand the services to both the state entity and private sector as well.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Chairman, thank you. And I'm very happy to have had the opportunity to hear this from VMCOTT, and I'm sure the listening public as well must be very happy. And perhaps maybe you could go on a stronger campaign, promotional campaign, so people would know of the services of VMCOTT. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I recognize Mr. Scotland.
Chairman, I cede to my
apologies.
Not at all.
And then after Mr. Scotland.
No, we are actually at EDM in this, both Member Scotland and myself. We agree, and this is a rare occurrence, that we must commend VMCOTT for the internal fraud policy. I know that the very kind chairman will say that it is because you put a woman in the seat. However, I really think it's a tremendous initiative that you have put something in place dealing with issues, possibility of external incentives, pressure to commit fraud, opportunities created for fraud to be perpetrated, the potential for an organizational culture to develop which justifies fraud, any potential that may exist or which may inadvertently be created for management to override controls, areas or functions particularly susceptibility to fraud, procedure for identifying the risk of fraud, avenues for fraud to be reported, and anonymity of the reporter, that is, freedom from fear of victimization, and procedure for responding to allegations of fraud. So I thank you for this, but I have one question. You've said also that the new draft policy, we just consider all of these issues are awaiting, that it is awaiting board approval. And my question is, when was it submitted to the board? Because you have the chairman right next to you, and he is, of course, very pleased with you. No, you are to answer, not the chairman.
My apologies. Chair, through you.
Yes.
These policies, it was brought to my attention first. The managers, we will meet and debate on the policy first. And then it was brought to the board in a draft form. The board debated on it last year, September, around that time. And of course, they sent it back to add some additional information through our audit department. So our auditor is supposed to look at the policies and see wherever flaws and so on to tighten the process before it is then submitted to the board. So we are in the month of January. So hopefully at our next board meeting in February, because we had a board meeting already for the month of January, it will be submitted after the internal auditor makes his recommendations.
Thank you very much. Well, the chairman is right there and he is listening, and I'm sure you'll get the required response as early as possible. Mr. Chairman, you're not smiling.
All right, I recognize Mr. Keith Scotland.
Chairman, through you, this question is directed to the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works, and which is Ms. Damati Ramdath, and Ms. Kimberline Pascal, which is from the Ministry of Finance. Do you see there being a feasible role? Feasible meaning a role where VMCOTT is independent, because I can't see an organization dealing with vehicle management not being able to sustain itself. Do you see the sustainability and feasibility of VMCOTT materializing itself in the near future, meaning where VMCOTT could stand on its own, generate its own business and its own profit dealing with vehicles? I'm asking that relative to the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Deputy Permanent Secretary, and the person in charge, the business analyst from the Ministry of Finance. And I will ask the chairman of VMCOTT that too, because that must be your vision.
So I guess I will lead, right? Chair, through you. Thank you, member, for that question. And I don't know if Chair will remember, in 2021, I did tell Chair, I did make a statement that by 2025, VMCOTT will become viable and sustainable. So, and I stand by my words, and as you would have noted, the entire committee would have noted that there has been a tremendous improvement in terms of VMCOTT's operations, their processes, and we continue to improve. And that's why I do always like this forum, because we do take your recommendations when to be able to work on and to implement, because when you're inside, many of times you will not, you may not have the external view. And being at these forums, you learn about yourself and about your entities and what are the external views. So, Member Scotland, to answer your question, once we overcome the challenges and we have established policies, yes, we can become sustainable.
Ms. Pascal, do you share the optimism of your colleague from the Ministry of Works and Transport?
Chairman, through you, yes, I share the optimism. However, I believe that if the customers are to pay VMCOTT, VMCOTT operations will be better managed, because that is one of their main challenges, that they have outstanding payments. So yes, once they receive those payments, yes, VMCOTT can be viable and be able to manage their operations much better.
And Chairman, may I then ask this? Does the chairman of VMCOTT, or does management of VMCOTT see itself becoming viable, becoming sustainable, self-sustaining by 2025? Because that is the time frame set by Mrs. Ramdass.
Chairman, may I respond?
Yes.
It was the board's goal and objective to become solvent by 2021. With the impending pandemic, we were stymied a bit. VMCOTT can stand on its own. The vision of the board is to make VMCOTT solvent. I have made a commitment to my line minister to make it happen, and I have made every effort as the chair of the board to select the right members of staff to take VMCOTT as a vehicle management organization into the next dimension of the automotive industry. Because we have to move away from ICE engines, the internal combustion engines. We have to go to what is the new and latest technology, and we always have to stay ahead of it. So yes, VMCOTT can, and it is my commitment, once I'm the chairman of the board, to ensure that that happens.
Through you again, Chairman.
Yes.
Have you synergized that plan with your members and with your board and with your staff? Because it's okay, and if you know one of the theories of management, that management has high ideals, but the ideals are not bought into by the staff, beginning with your board, of course, and then your management, and then, of course, the persons who execute it on a day-to-day level. Have you had buy-in from everyone to ensure that in 2025, VMCOTT will stand on its own?
Yes, we do. We have had the board working assiduously to achieve that through strategic objectives. We selected the management team and empowered her to make sure that she has the right support and consistent support in achieving that, as well as the staff.
Do you
Through the CEO, the staff is kept up to date on everything that's happening. So it's a very cohesive unit.
Do you have a strategic plan that identifies this goal of 2025 that you can present to this committee?
Yes, we do.
Chairman, and have you presented it as yet?
If I'm not mistaken, that has been presented through the Ministry of Works and Transport.
Yes. I haven't seen it, but if it's an oversight, could you have it presented to us, please, so we can have it as per our records?
Certainly, that will be finished.
I don't know which one of you will take this question, but there was a disturbing report some time ago about a number of what they call the graveyard of police vehicles. And to me, that represents a lot of money. Is there a way where you could partner with the police service to try to repair and retrieve those vehicles and sell them off? Because there are so many, to me, areas where government agencies can make money, and nothing seems to be happening. Is there any thought being given to this? Because that picture that, I think I still have that newspaper clipping home with all of these vehicles lying there, and somehow maybe also something with the police being and their ability to drive, that some partnership, some kind of service, because you have You seem to have a lot of expertise within your organization. And there are a number of areas out there where you can actually add to your generation of income, which you so dearly need because you have all of these debts to pay. So have you been given thought to that? Is it at all possible? Is it feasible? Or is it a pie-in-the-sky idea?
Chair, through you, may I answer? Well, basically, we need to set up this disposal committee, and it's have to be in agreement with the client, which is the TTPS. I just want to recap back then with these vehicles in the graveyard. These vehicles are parked there. The TTPS would more or less use the vehicles until it comes to a halt instead of doing the maintenance. And then it will park in one area, and then, of course, it go to another graveyard in terms for auction. The problem there is the fact that we should not allow it to reach that stage. So let's say we have a period of 5 years. 5 years, you now look at the existing fleet, you put them up for disposal of public auction, where at least you could get some capital from it, as opposed to it parked up on a rotten down shell, which you would not get anything for it. Not only that, the length of time as well. But VMCOTT role in that I have made recommendations to avoid that is, one, we have to standardize the fleet. You cannot buy every make and model of vehicle on the road of Trinidad and Tobago and use it for policing. You either have 1 or 2 makes and models where you have the skill set to do the repairs. You could get the inventory as well, so you can, of course, have the parts in the inventory to fix it. But when you buy all different makes and models and the expertise is not here, you have challenges getting parts. The vehicle's not coming to VMCOTT, they're going all over. We have no way and means of managing how the private providers are doing it. Hence the reason in 2012, we got a mandate where we could authorize the garages on behalf of the TTPS. That process was done in 2012. Out of 15 garages, 3 were selected. The TTPS never utilized the garage. VMCOTT again made an attempt in 2021 to then revamp it. Now, one of the issues with the existing garages is the fact that they're experiencing the same problem where they're not getting payment in a timely fashion. So they wanted VMCOTT, of course, to handle that affair. So what we did basically, we did the administrative work. We set criteria, as we did back then in 2012. We just upgraded it. We went to the bidders who bid to have the private garages on behalf of the TTPS. They meet the criteria, and of course, we just never kicked it off because payment is an issue from these bidders. They want to know that the payment is in a timely manner. What VMCOTT would have done is manage these fleets, manage these garages efficiently. When I say manage, let's say it have 20 authorized garages by VMCOTT throughout nationwide Trinidad and Tobago. The TTPS could use any in their area, wherever. If they encounter difficulties, a South vehicle in Port of Spain, they go to any of those authorized garages and get it done. It's the management of those garages. VMCOTT have to keep an eye on those garages, make sure that the repairs that they claim that is being done on these units is done in a timely manner. Also, it needs to be we need to inspect to ensure that the parts as well that they claim that they put on the vehicles is either genuine or quality aftermarket parts. And that is one of the issues why 95% of those vehicles are now in the graveyard. They're rotten. So they need proper management. VMCOTT was developed for that. We have the capacity, we have the know-all as well to implement and save the TTPS so they can now function on their mandate. And of course, we could exercise ours further in terms of providing them full and complete fleet management services for their fleet.
Maybe now is the time, you know. It's said that if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And you have a female commissioner.
Chairman, you see what you have now engendered. You have led us down the road and nobody wants to take us back, but I may tend to agree with you. Chairman, through you, yes. Have you resolved the issue of the inventory as relates to spare parts? Has it been resolved? I know PKF referred to it. Have you resolved that issue? So is it now a proper inventory and account for your spare parts? Because it's very easy, you'd agree with me, to lose spare parts. And that affects your bottom line.
Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, we have rectified that thus far. As I mentioned earlier on, we have blanket orders with suppliers. So no need to stock physical inventory. We know the suppliers and the availability of the stock. When we need it, by a need basis, they, of course...
So you will not have like a spare part stock. You will, on a need-to-use basis, you have it, correct?
Just consumables, which is fast-moving items like filters and air filters and so on, brakes,
Chairman,
basic parts.
through you, I would really want to say to VMCOTT that we were very happy to have them here. Based on their report, and Chairman, based on your stern warning, I am sanguine relative to your continued existence, but I want to thank you all for coming today. It was enlightening. It was an enlightening event. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Now, before we bring the proceedings to a close, I would like to appeal to VMCOTT to effect, as you have committed to effecting, a final fraud policy. Because I cannot understand if it was drafted, a draft policy was drafted and approved by the board since 2015, that we have had to now redraft something that was drafted in 2015, and you have a company as important as VMCOTT without a final fraud policy being approved by the board. And even PKF had to indicate that at the time when they conducted their audit, there was no policy document on fraud. So I would like to, on behalf of the committee, to take the CEO word that by the end of, did you say the next, by March, or is it April? By March, right? We're holding you to that particular deadline, so that we'll be writing you to ensure that policy is approved by the board and operationalized. So that is extremely important. The other small...
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You're asking her to ensure that the policy is approved.
No, well, approved by the board. Because remember, it has to be drafted by the management, and then they will send to the board.
Yeah, but how can the CEO ensure that the board approves it?
No, well, maybe my language is inappropriate here.
Yeah,
so what we like to ensure is that the final policy is approved by the board. That is the point I'm making.
Speak to the chairman then.
Yeah, well, no. The chairman has a responsibility to ensure that. Mr. Chairman, you are going to give us that undertaking that by the end of March of 2024, a fraud policy for VMCOTT will be approved by your board.
Duly noted, Chair.
I want you to note it, I want you to give us an undertaking that you're going to have that approved, so that VMCOTT needs that policy, because it has been in existence since 2000.
Chair, if you allow me to explain myself.
Yes.
Please. The 2015 draft fraud policy was never brought to the attention of this present board.
Okay.
And it was an indication of the miscommunication by previous management. Having been brought to the attention of this board, we reviewed it and we sent it back to the internal auditor through the CEO for finalization. He was inundated with work as it relates to the new procurement regulations, which he had to crystallize for us so that we would be in compliance with the procurement regulations.
Right.
And I crave your indulgence, and I will make every effort to commit that on the 31st of March, 2024, you will have it.
And the last point I'd like to raise is how much money is still owed to TT posts by the VMCOTT, given that 2.9 million that was spent on the 10 panel vans? How much money is owed to TT posts?
All right, current with the arrangements, we are making monthly payments towards the account. We have a balance of $1,449,105.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, listen, I would like on behalf of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee and my colleagues who are here with us to extend to the officials of the Ministry of Works and Transport, VMCOTT, as well as the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, for being here with us. There are many, 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 many more questions that we will be sending to you in writing for your responses, but at this stage, we cannot pursue those at this meeting. So we'd like to thank all of you for coming here and being here with us at this meeting. At this time, we'd like to suspend our meeting to allow our official to be excused, and we shall remain for a few moments to wrap up. So members, officials, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Happy Carnival.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, well, New Year gone, so happy Carnival. Yeah. We're moving towards Carnival. Yeah, moving forward.